During the time we were producing this film, as a group we had learned a lot of valuable skills and learned to cooperate with technology with our newly developed technical abilities, which help us produce our final film. Most of the filming that we had done used an iPhone 3GS inbuilt camera from my phone due to the lack of budget. However, we did use the S4600 digital camera for the first dream scene, as the effects would have reduced the quality due to the fuzziness and the filters. But we made sure it wouldn't affect the resolution in any negative way afterwards. The 3GS camera, however, was harder to generate a proper image with, as it would require extremely precise hand movements. Because the phone is very light, and each minor accidental movement would make a bit shaky impact on our final film recording. I would say the S4600 was much easier to use, as it had a good weight and good feel to it, and it would use optical zoom, which would prevent quality reduction and less pixels visible when zoomed than it would if you zoomed in using digital. But throughout our film opening, we had found out that zooming in would require much more precise camera work and reduced quality on the 3GS. Therefore, we tried making sure we used little to no zoom in our filming sessions. We were thinking of using tripods to get a stable shot, but there were many problems we had encountered trying to find one, because 1, there was only one tripod for our whole classroom to use, and so scheduling a time would restrict us and would leave us to regrets, as we couldn't experiment as much as we could if we had more time with it. One problem that we had encountered was because of missing clips. This problem occurred because the camera was removed from the iMac, and Final Cut Pro would continue searching for the file from the same directory, only to find it wasn't there. We had faced this problem many times, and it had affected our work in a negative way, as it meant we would need to render the clips again. In order to solve this problem, we decided to import the files onto the Mac and link that file with Final Cut so that we wouldn't need the cameras to edit. So at these points, we had learned to be more organized with our equipment. For example, have equipment purchased before heading on and filming and moving into the schedule. One thing that we found very successful in our film was the editing. This was because with enough practice, we had gained enough knowledge on how to edit, what each effect implied to the audience, and how the sound influenced our production. We grew very confident with our editing skills towards the end and learned through experimentation. For example, the sudden change in screen effects and the loud roaring sound effects that came through when Mary looked up at the whiteboard. But some of our acting wasn't very good, but we still managed to edit in a way which helped leave the continuity flow and hide all the flaws. Final Cut Pro also allowed us to speed up certain clips, slow them down, as well as adding music and voiceovers. Final Cut Pro was a link between video clips and finished high-quality film. We used it to cut out certain clips to shorten the length, and as well as move the video clips into different configurations. This process included a lot of trial and improvement during our initial stages of production. Finally, when filming, lighting was hugely taken into consideration due to the importance of cinematography when it comes to thrillers and psychological aspects. In order to maximize the light available in our shot, we used a variety of equipment, including light stands, reflectors, and spotlights. This took plenty of time to overcome because a lot of the lighting effects that we had added looked very artificial and forced. Looking back on our preliminary task, we believe that we have greatly developed with our film opening. This has been done through the mise-en-scène, editing and sound, also regarding the camera shots, which had improved a lot. One example of this comes down to using our costumes and props, as it helps set the scene with a realistic mise-en-scène for the environment and cinematography set. We had made this change because looking back at our preliminary task, our costumes and props used to look rather irrelevant and unprofessional. From the preliminary task, we were able to play around with the shots and were free of restrictions. One very good shot used in our film opening was the first-person camera shot taken from the dream, which was fused with an extreme close-up, simultaneously using editing over our successfully powerful camera angles and shots. The shots clearly helped show that the scene was a dream effect, which was part of the storyline. So in this case, the preliminary task and the final task had a wide difference, as we had learned how to use camera angles and editing to make sure that the storyline of the film is presented to the audience in an effective way. Again, looking back at the preliminary task, we thought we have used some of the shots and rules on the final film that we had used on the preliminary task previously. For example, the 180-degree rule helped us to make sure there was no confusion with the audience until the very end. When our group had decided to build character to the amulet and immensely add some sort of personification towards the amulet, this would create an intense rush of communication with Mary, the audience, and the amulet itself, as if it contained a persona, giving us hints that the amulet is actually a characterization of the devil, who claims to call himself by the name of his first form, Lucifer, which we are given away at the beginning because of the whispering in Mary's dream. The preliminary task would also lead us to explore non-diegetic sounds. This was because we were left curious after being given only 3 simple rules to follow, and seeing that our task was very simple for us anyways. We decided that on the final film, we won't go by that simplicity and ensure that we have some non-diegetic sounds too, such as the thunderous sound effects, roars, and background music. Also the ambience. We had also used the OTS, over-the-shoulder shot, to find another intelligent way to provide the audience with a POV, point of view, without obstructing the flow and clarity of the shot and scene. The preliminary task helped greatly in how to angle shots and move the camera. On top of this, the editing has helped immensely by using Final Cut Pro X, which allowed us to experiment with the technology, allowing us to learn things within the IT perspective. We had also learned that we should always take as many shots as we can while we're at the location, with the props, makeup, costume, and other aspects of mise-en-scène to save time. We had also made an amazing improvement with our match-on action, no doubt there. As you can clearly see on the preliminary task, there's a lot of match-on action problems, such as having my arm in a different position each shot. This time around, when we came to do our final film, we made sure there were no flaws with our match-on action, and even used 2 cameras in some cases to make sure the shots were perfect. We would then sync these 2 clips, and then cut out the unneeded parts of the shots, and keep the one with the most effective camera angles.